Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point, AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point, the network AFR Talk. Let's go back to Sandra in Kathleen, Georgia. And Sandra, you had a follow-up comment or question on our discussion about the role of evangelical Christians in abolishing slavery.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Yeah, I appreciated the recap about everything that you were discussing since I'd missed it. But I wanted to emphasize that the same efforts, the same energy that is led by Jesus Christ, his people, it is still alive and well today. This is being led by the Abolish Human Abortion movement.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but there is a website you can read up, abolishhumanabortion.com. We are a group of evangelical Christians who we are forming different societies all across the United States. We are gathering like-minded people who, number one, we believe in just preaching the gospel. We believe that sharing the gospel of Christ is the only way that we are going to end human abortion in America. We're committed to this. I can't emphasize it enough how much we need strong Christians who are willing to go to the front lines and intervene on behalf of these women who are choosing death for their unborn children.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate hearing that, Sandra, that there is basically a second abolitionist movement is what you're talking about, and you're using the word abolition in the title of this movement to abolish the institution of abortion, which is obviously even more savage, more demeaning, more inhumane even than the institution of slavery. And Sandra, I just want to reread the quote from the end of this interview because this will be encouraging to you. It's an especially encouraging word because the point that this documentarian makes is that at the time that the abolition movement took on the institution of slavery, it seemed impossible that anything could be done about it. And we think the same way. How are we going to abolish abortion in America? It's been the practice in this country for 40 years because of Roe v. Wade. How are we going to be able to bring this horrible, horrible Nazi-esque, grotesque institution to an end? It seems overwhelming. But here's what he said about the abolition movement, and this is a word for those of us today that are working to working on the abolition of abortion. I think it's really a testament to the power of the individual, he says. These characters were up against overwhelming odds. In hindsight, it seems like the end of slavery was inevitable, but it was in fact about the most unlikely thing in the world, and a very small set of people set this vortex in motion, which eventually swept up the country and changed our history for the better. And he says the bottom line, if you're dedicated enough and if you have a clear vision of something right and true, you can in fact effect change. Well, thank you, Sandra. I appreciate your call. And do you have a website we could send people to?
Yes, absolutely. I encourage everyone to go to abolishhumanabortion.com.
Abolishhumanabortion.com.
Yes, sir. It tells all about the purpose of the site, what you can do, how you can get involved in different abolitionist societies that are literally, there's actually a list. It shows of where they're already started. Being in Georgia, we have one in Georgia as well. We would love to meet with you. We're planning a meeting in March. So, if you want to get involved, go to that website. Contact information is all right there, and we would love to have you join in this battle against this evil.
Okay, Sandra, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. Let's grab another couple of quick calls. Let's go to Larry, Belton, Texas. Larry, you're on Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, you bet.
Hey, I got a question, something I want to throw at you and want your idea. Why don't we give the Boy Scouts a Chick-fil-A day where, I don't know how to set this up, but maybe we could use one of the people that are supplying money, like AT&T, where we text Scout to a certain number, and I make a donation to the Scouts for $10, and AFA could handle this, and we could supply thousands of dollars to the Scouts and make a statement on top of that.
Well, that's an interesting concept, Larry, because, we've kicked around a similar idea around here, maybe even encouraging the scouts to go to their own people and ask for a small donation. Because, I think there's close to 3 million scouts right now. There are 3 million people involved in scouting right now. As you and I are talking, I think it's 2.9 million. So the numbers are huge.
Right.
And one of the issues that has rattled them and made them rethink their policy is you have these pro-homosexual companies like AT&T or like Merck or like Verizon or like UPS or Ernst & Young. Their CEO is also on the executive board along with the CEO of AT&T. And they have been withholding funds from the Boy Scouts to kind of punish them for being supporters of natural marriage and normative sexuality. And so it's the loss of funds that's really been kind of crippling the Boy Scouts. They've spent tens of millions of dollars fighting these cases in court. And now on top of that, they are losing corporate donations. So that's part of what's brought them to the brink of bankruptcy, frankly, is fighting these cases in court and then having corporate friends and sponsors begin to pull out. And so, that's an interesting possibility, whether we would try to organize something like that or someone else would, or whether we would urge the Boy Scouts to do something like that, to send out an appeal to their own people, the 2.9 million that are involved in scouting. We need your help. We've been hit by this corporate pressure to compromise our time-honored standards. We're not going to do it. We don't want to do it, but that is enormously expensive. It's costly to the BSA because of the loss of corporate income. Would you please give us help? Please give us help with a $10 donation. Well, if they had everybody involved in scouting, 2.9 million of them, that'd be 29 million bucks. Boom! Right now, I would have to think that would make a big difference and be a big help, as well as a great encouragement. All right, Larry, listen, thank you very much.
Another thing, Brian, is I had two grandsons who is 6 and 3. I'd like them to be in the Scouts, but if this goes through, I don't want them in Scouts. And there's a lot of grandparents out there who have young grandkids that's going to join Scouts if it stays the way it is. But if not, they won't let them put them in Scouts. So,
well, and I think, you got a lot of company out there, Larry. Thank you for that call. And, I think you're exactly right. I think it'd be a suicide trip for the Boy Scouts. I think they would just virtually vanish. We've seen that happen in Canada. I walked you through that on Tuesday, what happened in Canada. They went pro-gay in 1998. They even formed in 1999 a completely homosexual scout troop, a scout troop that was made up of nothing but homosexuals. And they have homosexual troops marching in homosexual pride parades. That all happened since 1998. At that time, there were 300,000 Canadians involved in scouting. That number today is down to 74,000. It wasn't but a matter of 5 or 6 years they went into the tank. They had to start selling off campgrounds and conference facilities and beachfront properties because people just refused. They just were not going to put their young boys in an environment where they had no idea what kind of values were going to be taught and what kind of sexual compromise their sons could be exposed to. All right, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to John, Wilmington, North Carolina. John, you're on Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Yes, how you doing? I was listening to one of the shows earlier, and they was talking about that idiot that went in there and shot the security guard.
Yes, at the Family Research Council,
Yeah. Now, why aren't they prosecuting that Southern law firm under them new hate crime laws?
Well, you would think they would, wouldn't you? I appreciate that, John. Because this guy, this Floyd Corkins, I think was his name, he built his hit list off of the Southern Poverty Law Center website. He said, look, these people hate homosexuals. They hate them. They despise them. We don't. It's a complete lie. We love homosexuals enough to tell them the truth about their behavior, and our allegiance is going to be to the truth. And we believe the truth sets people free. That's what Jesus taught. We agree with Jesus. We believe the truth liberates, and so we're going to speak the truth about homosexuality because we love people. It's the Westboro Church that hates people. By the way, they've had a couple of the granddaughters of Fred Phelps have left the church. 2 of his granddaughters have his name. They have left the church because they just got tired. They just had all they could take of the hatred. And by the way, I've mentioned this before, but this is something that establishes my street cred. When I was a pastor in Boise, Idaho, the Fred Phelps crew came and picketed my church. They picketed my church, Fred Phelps, because I was too gay. I got all this hate stuff from them about what a homosexual sympathizer I was, and And what a wolf in sheep's clothing I was. And so they actually came out and picketed my church. But more and more people in the Phelps Church beginning to see the light and come out of it. But, it is interesting, the Southern Poverty Law Center falsely accusing us of being hate groups, accusing FRC of being hate groups. In fact, Mark Potok, who's the head of Southern Poverty Law Center, he came here to Tupelo about a year ago, as a matter of fact, and he took on AFA by name at a meeting here in our community, calling us a hate group and how we needed to be stopped and how terrible and horrible. We're the same guy that heads up SPLC and fingered Family Research Council. And I think the chances are very good. Probably the only thing that saved the AFA from being a target of this guy's venom was the fact that we're located halfway across the country. He lives in the D.C. area, so he found FRC was a D.C. target. He had a list of 3 other pro-family organizations that he had on his target list. That's where he was going to go after he got done at FRC, and he got stopped before he could carry out the rest of his plan. But I have no doubt that if our headquarters were located in Washington, D.C., he would have been torn about whether to go after FRC or go after AFA first. The only thing that protected us on that day, frankly, was geography. Wasn't anything else, because we're number 2. AFA is like number 2 on the SPLC hate list. And so really it's, that's what I said yesterday, it's really the SPLC that's stirring up the hatred and the venom and the vitriol. The animus here is all coming from the SPLC, and it's targeted toward pro-family groups. So if anybody is responsible for creating a climate of hatred, and our last caller says, why aren't they being prosecuted for hate crimes? Well, I expect that if the shoe was on the other foot, if we were directing venom and hatred and vitriol at these pro-homosexual groups, and we were urging people to do something about it, and somebody took a gun, went out, the chances are good they'd be hauling us in to court. So anyway, it's interesting that I think the real hatred, there's plenty of hatred in this issue, but all you got to do is, post on your Facebook page the truth about homosexuality. Talking to one of the people on my team this morning about they're just getting besieged by homosexuals because of simple statements of truth that he made on his Facebook page. And so that's where the real hate is. That's where the real venom is. It's not coming from us toward them. It's being directed by the homosexual lobby at us. Again, not by all homosexuals, but by homosexual activists. They hate us. That's where the hate is. Their hate directed toward us. Back in 2.